Hey gang, and welcome back. This week we have a vanilla game of EDH just for you. This week I'm playing my Krenko Mob Boss deck, Matt is playing his 8.5 Tails deck, Sean is playing his Rishkar Pima Renegade deck, and Mike is playing Ulrich of the Krowlin Horde, which unfortunately screws up our whole mono-colored thing. For openers, I keep Flamekin Village, 2 Mountains, Warren Instigator, Perforos God of the Forge, Wheel of Fate, and Thousand Year Elixir. Sean's opener had Orin Reef the Vastwood, 2 Forests, Colony Garden, Retreat to Kazandu, Avenger of Zendikar, and Bane of Progress. Mike's opener had Ground Seal, Lightning Greaves, Mwanvuli Beast Tracker, Garruk Primal Hunter, Forest, Mountain, and Karplusian Forest. And finally, Matt's opener had Runetail, Kitsune Ascendant, Pure Steel Paladin, Stratascythe, Wrath of God, Mother of Ruins, and 2 Plains. Matt wins the die roll and starts us off. For his first turn, he plays a Plains and then taps it to cast Mother of Ruins. My turn has Flamekin Village come into play tapped, and I pass to Mike. Mike's turn sees Karplusian Forest come into play, and he passes to Sean. Sean plays Colony Garden, which comes into play tapped, and gets a 0/1 plant token. Matt plays a Plains, and then goes for 8.5 Tails, but fakes out and casts Pure Steel Paladin. He passes to me. For my turn, I play a Mountain, and I cast Warren Instigator, and pass to Mike. Mike's turn sees a Forest come into play, and he casts Ground Seal as much to shut off graveyard shenanigans as he does to draw a card. For his turn, Sean plays a Forest and casts Gyre Sage before passing to Matt. Matt misses his land drop for turn, but fortunately draws into Soul Ring and casts it. He then casts Fire Shrieker, which allows him to draw thanks to Pure Steel Paladin. Moving to combat, Pure Steel Paladin attacks Mike for 2. For my turn, I play a Mountain, and then I move to combat, swinging Warren Instigator at Mike. Warren Instigator hits first with Double Strike, and I'm able to put Mog War Marshal into play for free, but when his second strike hits, I have nothing else to put into play. In my second main phase, I cast Thousand Year Elixir and pass to Mike. Mike plays a Mountain for his turn, then casts Mwanvuli Beast Tracker. He finds Dragonlord Atarka and puts it on top of his library. Sean plays a Forest for his turn, and then taps out to cast Rishkar Pima Renegade. Rishkar triggers Evolve on Gyre Sage first, and Sean puts a 1/1 counter on it. He then decides to put 1+1+1 counter on Rishkar itself, and 1+1+1 counter on the 0/1 plant. Matt plays Myriad Landscape for his land for turn, and then taps 3 mana to cast Extraplanar Lens, exiling the planes that he had tapped for it. Tapping his remaining planes, he casts 8.5 Tails. Having now activated Metalcraft thanks to the lens, Matt equips 8.5 Tails with a Fire Shrieker and passes to me. For my turn, I miss my upkeep trigger for the Mog War Marshal, but I do catch it before the end of my turn. During my first main phase, I play a Mountain and then cast Treasonous Ogre. I choose to pay 24 life to generate 8 red mana, and I cast Perforos, God of the Forge. With Big Daddy Perforos on the field, I cast Krenko Mob Boss, dealing 2 damage to everyone. Tapping Krenko thanks to Thousand Year Elixir, I generate 4 Goblin tokens, dealing an additional 8 damage to everyone. Mike unfortunately misses his land drop again, and casts Lightning Greaves before passing to Sean. For Sean's turn, he plays Retreat to Kazandu, and then drops Orin Reef, the Vastwood. This triggers the retreat, and he puts a +1/+1 counter on Gyre Sage. Sean then taps Gyre Sage for 2 mana, Rishkar and the plant for 1 additional mana each, and casts Solemn Simulacrum to find a Forest, which triggers retreat, and this time he chooses to gain 2 life. With nothing else, Sean passes to Matt. At the end of Sean's turn, Mike makes a comment about how my lands don't match, and I suddenly don't feel as bad about attacking him earlier. Seeing the impending doom that is my Goblin army, Matt decides to cast Wrath of God to wipe away the filthy Goblin tokens. In response, I activate Treasonous Ogre, paying 3 life to gain 1 red mana, and use it to pay Thousand Year Elixir's activated ability to untap Krenko. I then tap Krenko and generate 8 additional tokens, dealing 16 damage to everyone. With all that resolving, Wrath of God happens and all the creatures die, which allows Sean to draw a card off Solemn Simulacrum. With nothing else, Matt passes to me. On my turn, I draw into nothing and decide to suspend Wheel of Fate, before passing to Mike. Mike continues to draw cards that he can't cast and plays a Forest before passing to Sean. Sean's turn has Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, come into play, and he upticks her to make what he calls a Broccoli, before tapping Orin Reef to give that Broccoli a +1/+1 counter. With a Planeswalker and a blocker now on the field, he passes to Matt. Matt plays a Plains for his turn, then taps Soul Ring to crack Myriad Landscape. Matt then taps his 2 Plains and casts Runetail, Kitsune Ascendant. With his 1 remaining white mana, Matt casts Enlightened Tutor to go find True Conviction and passes to me. During my upkeep, I remove a suspend counter from Wheel of Fate, and then, on my turn, unfortunately I don't draw a land, but I draw something just as good, and I cast Soul Ring. I then tap my 3 remaining lands and cast Goblin King, dealing 2 damage to all of my opponents. Unfortunately for Mike, he has to take one from Carplusian Forest to cast Garruk, Primal Hunter. Having the lowest life total among all of us, Mike uses Garruk's +1 ability to make a good blocker and equips it with the Greaves and passes to Sean. Sean also misses his land drop for turn, and he upticks Nissa to generate a 0/1 plant token before casting Rishkar. He chooses to put the +1/+1 counter on the new plant and Rishkar and passes to Matt. Matt also doesn't have a land to play and casts True Conviction before following it up by casting 8.5 Tails again. Moving to combat, Rune Tail swings at me and I decide to take the damage rather than lose my goblin, and I take 4 damage and Matt gains 4 life. Matt then passes to me. During my upkeep, I remove a suspend counter from Wheel of Fate, and then I move to my main phase and tap all of my mana to recast Krenko, dealing 2 damage to all of my opponents. I then tap Krenko, generating 2 1/1 goblins and deal 4 damage to each of my opponents. This in turn kills Mike. As I am unable to kill anyone during the combat step, I opt to keep my goblins back as blockers and I pass to Sean. Sean plays a forest for his turn and chooses to have Retreat gain him 2 life. He then taps 6 mana to cast Garruk, Caller of Beasts. He then uses Garruk's -3 ability to put Craterhoof Behemoth into play. This gives all of his creatures +4/+4 and trample. Despite his beefy creatures, Sean has a bit of a conundrum. If he doesn't kill me, I'm going to kill him and Matt on my next turn. But if he doesn't kill Matt could kill him on his next turn. Knowing he's going to die either way, he decides to take one of us out with him and rolls the dice. Unfortunately, the number comes up for me, and despite having 11 toughness on board, it isn't enough to stop me from dying. Having finished his combat step, Sean passes to Matt. Not even needing to draw into an answer to kill Sean, Matt starts his turn. Tapping 3 planes to get 6 mana, Matt casts Stratascythe, exiling a planes from his library. He then uses the 3 remaining mana to equip 8.5 Tails with the Stratascythe. Tapping his last planes and Soul Ring, Matt activates 8.5 Tails' first activated ability, turning Sean's plant into a white plant token. Matt then activates 8.5 Tails' second ability, giving 8.5 Tails protection from white, and swings in his commander for lethal damage. Game review time. Alright, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to say it. Sean probably should have made another 0/1 plant token, but in all likelihood, all it would have done is bought him another turn. Matt having as much mana as he did and having a True Conviction on the fields was going to gain him a ton of mana and a ton of life. It's a shame Mike wasn't able to really draw into anything, and as people have noticed, it always seems to be the case that at least one of the people in my games tends to sit there and do nothing, and I'm really sorry to say that it was Mike this game. He unfortunately drew like every single top end card in his deck and just wasn't able to get there. I was super happy to play Krenko again. I love this deck, and I'm so glad that I put in Treasonous Ogre. This card is incredible for mono red. Sure, I paid 3/4 of my life to do some degenerate things, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Purphoros, as always, did most of the heavy lifting for this deck, but there are many times where I've won with Krenko without him. I'd only ever played against an 8.5 Tails deck once before, and that was in a tournament way back in Montreal. It was really cool to be able to see what Matt's deck was able to do, and from what I saw, he is definitely a great Voltron commander. Please be sure to tune in every Monday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video, with additional videos popping up sometimes during the week. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta, or catch me streaming at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video was brought to you in part by support from my Patreons. If you're looking to help out the channel or the stream, please feel free to look at the link below or in the About section. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more.